Good day, viewers, and welcome to Reminiscences with Chief Olabode Ibiyinka George, former Navy Commodore, one-time military governor of Ondo State, and also former Deputy National Chairman of the People's Democratic Party. Chief, you are welcome to the program.
Always my pleasure.
And as usual, we start with your early life. Can we go over that before we come to the present?
Sure. Well, I was fortunate, because in life, no individual, no human being decides where he is to be born.
Of course.
When it's time, you just pop out as another human being. I was fortunate to have come from a very well-known families of Lagos. My great-granduncle, my great-grandmother was the first cousin to Herbert Macaulay. So growing up in that family home, politics had always been. We learned a lot of what Grandpapa was doing to unite Nigeria. On my father's side, my great-grandfather was a reverend gentleman who was evangelizing in the current Nupe area of Niger State. Those were imposed, those missionaries at that time. And that's how he met his wife, who was a Nupe woman.
Right. And
then brought her back to Lagos. And in Lagos, our family, George family, our family house is located in the heart of Lagos Island, between Isalegongo and Campus Square. That's where I grew up. Of course, the old man was a reverend. His wife was also converted. And of course, the Lagos of those days had a congregation of Nupe people. Today's present Oshodi family of Lagos. And if you still go there now, the traditional masquerade of the Nupe people is still centered there in Oshodi. And each time people refer to the Oshodi family of Lagos, they call them the Tapa people of Lagos. So you can see how far back that camaraderie, that relationship had been in existence.
Tapa is the Yoruba for Nupe.
Yeah, for Nupe people, Tapa. So I grew up, was brought up. My grandfather, who was the son of my great-grandfather, he was a reverend, so his son became the organist in the Methodist Church in Lagos. And then my father was also able to play the piano, but he didn't continue with the church thing. He was in the choir, he was this, he was that. So the union of the Aganga Williams, the Phillips, and the George was that. But the most interesting part of it was that my paternal grandmother came from Brazil. Their parents, after the slave trade, they came from Bahia State. I've been there, to Bahia State, to see the other half. He had 2 wives. And he decided that one wife with her children should move to Africa because they offered them, those who wanted to go back to Africa.
They were emancipated.
From Bahia State. The other wife and her children stayed on there. So my great-grandmother, with her own children, she had 2 girls and a son. They sailed to Nigeria. My grandmother came here, my paternal grandmother came here when she was 5 years old. And then they settled at the typical, they call it Popo Aguda. That's where the Brazilian returnees stayed in Lagos. So that was where she stayed with her mother and her sister. She was the youngest of the three. And I remember the cuisine, she was a fantastic cook. All those little, we were kids, but we were always trying to run to grandma because we would eat those delicacies, the Brazilian delicacies and all that. And so that was where I grew up. My father was...
How was your schooling?
Before even the schooling, as I was growing up, was always between my maternal grandmother and my paternal grandmother, and my mom had very little effect, including my father, because they were also young. My father fought in the Second World War, but eventually ended working as a civil servant in the Ministry of Defense. And my mom was an auxiliary nurse who served all her life, a working life with the Island Maternity Hospital near Prison Street there. And so I remember the first day of school for me. My father put me on his rally bicycle. They used to put a little chair in front of the rally bicycle of those days, and took me to St. John's Primary School in Lagos, which was the community school, primary school. Most of those who grew up around the same area with us, we all went to St. John's Primary School. I remember that very first day. Just grabbed me in the morning, got me into the uniform. I think I was about 5 or 6 years old. And then coming back home, because we've been growing up around the area, you knew how, it wasn't too far from our family house. So every morning he would drop me, and once after school, I would come back. And growing up in that area, we had all kinds of people, from everywhere. The Hausas, the Igbos, all tribes of Nigeria, because the culture of Lagos, when I say Lagos, I mean Eko, used to call it, before the creation of Lagos State. Eko in those days was, we have a saying that it was a trading port. When the Portuguese first came, all they wanted to do was to trade. And we have a saying that is a thing of the local parlance, that as long as there is buying and selling along the end of the marina, Lagos will never remain poor. So everybody with their wares will come and live, and that's been our culture. That's why it grew economically, became the center of commerce in the whole of West Africa. And like you see Kano, you go to Kano, you find all kinds of people from all over Nigeria coming to trade. So it was the trading center for the north, just exactly like Lagos. So I grew up like that, and football was my major concern rather than the academic work in school. My father didn't like it, that he didn't understand why I wasn't doing well in school. Maybe external influences of the boys in the area and all that. My father was a disciplinarian, no nonsense at all. You were scheduled for if you fall out of line, it will knock you back. But I was happy too that I had a lot of my grandparents who would take care of me and scold him for beating me.
Where did you go for your post-primary school education?
Now, even after primary school, I did examination into the Methodist Boys' High School in Lagos, because I had never been outside.
Eko?
Never. But we had a tenant in my house who told my father, because I didn't do too well in primary school, My father was always complaining, and then I went to the school, and then I would do lesson with the teachers. Still, I wasn't really very focused. But then this tenant suggested to my father that why don't I go to a boarding school? Methodist Boarding School was not a boarding school. Why don't I go to a boarding school in Ijebu? They just take me away. And that he went to that grammar school, and there was discipline. There was, not really like military, but you will be conditioned, you will be, you follow, the dictates. There was discipline, there was the academic, there was even the soccer, the social part of schools and all that, and it's a religion biased school. So I did the entrance exam to that, and he was able to convince me, and that made my life. I went to that school. I remember the first time, that was the first time I was
Ijebu Ode Grammar School.
Ode Grammar School, the premier grammar school in the whole of Ijebu land. And I landed there as a little young man, in 1960. I finished my primary education in 1959. And in 1960, I was there in Form 1. And so we were in the boarding school. You were cocooned, you were, compelled. It was like going to a military training camp. Time for school, time for your academic, time for your reading, time for sports, time to eat. It was the best for me. I became really very organized. And I remember the first time exam, and we were also lucky that we had this Englishman who was our teacher, especially in mathematics, physics, and those basic things. He introduced them to us and made them dead easy. All those things that I used to struggle, and he just seamlessly, explained and taught us. And I became interested. I remember the first time exam, I was in the 10th position. So I was in a class of 30. My father said, "You came 10th? This is a surprise. Are you sure this is your result?" I said, "Daddy, you can see the principal and everybody wrote it." So he saw all the other grades and said, "So this guy, you can do well." From second term till I graduated in the 5th year, I was never second.
Wow.
It was incredible, even to me. And nothing you did but that you just followed the dictates, the discipline, and time for work, you work. Time for play, you play. Time for social debate and society and literary and debating society, I was involved with everything. Even school acting and all those. In the whole of Ijebu land at that time, those 5 years that I had were wonderful to me. If I had to relive, I would still go to that grammar school because it turned my life completely around.
What influenced your choice of a career from that point on?
I was lucky we had good teachers. They impacted knowledge without forcing. They had a way by which they molded us. And they came, so easy for you to understand, and that this is not cramming. The process was fantastic. And so when I got to the 5th form, I wasn't sure whether I should do sciences, because I was the best in sciences, in mathematics, in literature, history, English. It was a kind of a tug of war for me to choose maybe I would have been a good lawyer now if I went to the literary side. But then in fifth form, the international school, Ibadan, they were just starting the higher school part. There was an ISI school at the University of Ibadan. And we've heard so much about it, it was being run by Americans. And so I went there to do the entrance exam to that school. And then after the written exam, we were interviewed. This gentleman, an American, now called me, to exam. He was doing all this straight line equation, quadratic equation, for me to explain this way. Why would this graph be like this and not like that? And it was easy for me to explain. He was so happy. And he said, you are going to come to this school. Then I said, look, what about the school fees? When he told me the school fees, and I know how much you were paying, my father was a civil servant. I told him pointedly that, look, I don't think my father will be able to afford this. He said I should hold on 1 second. He went to see the headmaster, and they offered me 3/4 of the school fees as scholarship to ensure that I will be one of the pioneer students for the higher school. I was so happy. Went home, told my father. He was also happy. And in my school, we had a scheme that usually the best 2 students in any class, the final year, science class, will go. We had an arrangement with an English grammar school that you will spend your higher school there in their school. It was like an exchange program.
In England?
In England.
Right.
So the headmaster, their principal, just called me about a week after this exam and said, that I understand that you went to do an exam somewhere, so you didn't even want to stay in the grammar school to do your HSC. I was stunned. How did he know? He now showed me the letter written by the school. He said, by the way, that 2 of us have been already, he has sent our names to the UK school, Brentwood School in Excess, that will be going by January to start our HSC there. And so I have to make up my mind, either to head back to ISI or go to England. And in those days what it sounds like.
Yeah.
To say you are going to England, when in our local area, if anybody even arrived from England, the whole area will converge and be dancing and be praising God, And then here I was at what age? That I was going to be going to London. My father was excited, my mom was excited, everybody in the family, we were all excited. And so he said, of course, you will go. So we finished our exam sometimes around early December. So by the 15th of January, we were on our way to the UK. Me and Chola Oduko, we were the best students in our class. So that's how we headed into Brentwood School. The first time ever I am flying in an aeroplane. And I remember it was a Lufthansa flight. We left here in the night. We arrived my father bought me a new suit and all this, and we thought, you can imagine going from the equator to middle of winter in England, January 15th. So we landed in Frankfurt. And as we came out of the plane, my goodness, you can imagine we were young little kids. the cold without any top coat, without any scarf, without any woolly things. They said we should go run across, run to where? They had to get us some blankets to get to the terminal. That was my first experience in Europe. And then we had to connect from Frankfurt to London. We got to London. As we got there, we had our names being announced. You know, wondering who knew us here. Who is who is calling us? So Shola and I now said, we saw one of these air hostesses, and we said, look, that we had our name on the system. What do we do? So she waited and had said, okay. She took us to the information desk. Apparently, the school had sent those who were to meet us, you know, so they were trying to direct to tell us that, okay, we have arrived and we should go through a certain gate. Those were...
How long did you stay in England?
A whole year in the class.
Just for HSC?
Just for the HSC.
You didn't continue studying?
No. We came back to finish the exam here.
Yeah.
And then graduated from, you know, the HSC class, waited, and I applied to 2 universities. In 1966, we finished. You know, 1966 was an interesting year in Nigeria. Now, there were 3 major universities, Ahmadu Bello and Ibadan and then Lagos, offering engineering, because we did maths physics, biased towards engineering. And I remember very well, with the results we had, you know, we were offered scholarship at ABU, and most of the professors in the faculty of engineering and the faculty of architecture were British. You know, they had links to all these oil companies, and also based on your results, your Cambridge and London results, you were offered scholarship. I remember me and my best friend then, Femi Anibaba, we were offered full scholarship to head to Ahmadu Bello. I was so happy, you know. I had never been to any part of the north, but we've heard about Ahmadu Bello University. I had carried my bag and baggage to go to Femi's house so that we would go to Ido and go by train to Zaria. Civil War started. We couldn't go to Zaria. So we ended up, because we were admitted also to University of Lagos, and so we ended up at the University of Lagos. General Mubolaji Johnson, and life at that time, you know, was meaningful. It was you could determine what you want to do, where you want to go, without any encumbrances, without any problem. We related easily with everybody. And then we sat down there, you know. In those days, there was also the cafeteria, you know, you eat free food, students. And so as we sat down, 4 of us, we were all engineering students. I said to them, I said, you know, now you see our colleagues are getting scholarship from the West. Why don't we go and meet our governor? The following day, after lectures, we headed to the governor's office in Lagos, Mobolaji Johnson's office. And we got to the gate there with our ID card. We showed them, 4 of us. Two of my friends now are late. We have only just two of us. We got down there, and then they said, well, the guards at the gate said, what do you want? I said, we wanted to see governor. They said, you have appointment? We said, no. Where are you from? We said, we are students from University of Lagos. So we showed them our ID card. Their guard there came out and saw that actually we had the ID card. They said we didn't have any appointment. He said, no, but it's important. We are students, we are Lagosians. So they laughed and they went inside. Said we should give him 5 minutes. He went inside, the leader. They now said, when they looked at the names, said, okay, we should come. So we entered there, we saw them standing. And of course, we prostrated, we greeted them. They said, okay, what is our grounds? What are we looking for? And I said, sir, we just announced yesterday scholarship for Westerns. Now we have a state. Why can't we also have a scholarship program for your own students? They took it up, and they were nice. They told us that, okay, they will present our case to the governor, and then they will do something. Long and behold, 3 months after that, they started the Lagos State Scholarship Board. So those who benefited will not realize what we did.
You are the first beneficiary.
Yeah, of course, we were the
Where did that take you? You still remain in University of Lagos?
Yeah.
Yes.
We graduated from the University of Lagos. And in my final year, we were about 8 in my graduating class. 8. 7 men, 1 woman. I read electrical engineering. And before we wrote our final exam, companies had come to interview us, offered us jobs. Well, I had a choice to say you go here or go there. And the Electricity Corporation of Nigeria offered us, but I didn't like it. It was a massive corporation of, I think probably the largest government corporation at that time. But then there was the Niger Dams Authority in Kainji, headed by Malam Diko.
Yahya Diko.
Yahya Diko was the first MD. And then the total number of engineers they had were just 20. With the young ones, those of us who just joined them. And so we headed to Kainji. That was where I did my PPLA training, because in those days, 3 years of your theoretical work, you had to do 2 years practical work before you can be considered a full field engineer. I enjoyed it. We were exposed to the real practical side. Engineer Amu was our boss. There was this other gentleman from Kogi, Engineer Sule. They were our bosses. They trained us. They gave us a lot of challenges. We knew all those theoretical things we have learned. We saw the practical things on the field.
So at what point did you really make this transition to the military, to the Navy?
The war had ended. And then the Navy was now trying to reorganize, to modernize. They needed young, well-trained engineers to man the new equipment. Because in those days, people used to physically sit on those weapons, on the guns, using their eyes to be trailing any incoming missile or artillery. It was inefficient, absolutely inefficient. So they needed new people who could be trained, in the naval engineering. to man those. So they advertised for us, and you remember the Russian too gave us some warships during the war and all those, and they wanted to clean out and modernize and buy new ships and modernize. And so I went for the interview, and I was lucky. I was accepted.
What prompted the move to the Navy? I mean,
At that time, I thought I wasn't going to join. First of all, I went to the naval headquarters, met with the then staff officer Gunnery, who was Admiral Homo, who was a lieutenant commander at that time. I wanted to know more about this. He was so, he was like a big uncle to me. When he was explaining the need for the things in the Navy, that I should come and all that, I remember I told him the salary I was being paid and the salary Navy was going to be paid was just about half of what I was earning. He said, look, young man, the future, your future, you will never regret this. You must come. All those salary scales, they are also reviewing the salaries of the military people at that time. So I was convinced. In fact, I met also the then deputy, head of operations in the Navy, Admiral Adilanwa. They encouraged me, and I remember I went there with my. She wasn't my wife then, but she was. We were going to get married, we were planning a family, and so if I was going to be there, it was necessary for her to also, you hold the home for you to progress in your future. I was changing my life from being a civilian to a military. So we went, and I was admitted, and we got married. Immediately I finished the military training. We got married. I got married as a sub-lieutenant, with all the, all the portrayals and the things that go with the military weddings and all that. We enjoyed it.
Did you enjoy a career in the Navy?
Oh, perfect. Perfect. If I have to come back, I'll still join the Navy.
What was it about the Navy that was so...
First, we were sent out to change our biases had to now be formatted along the naval engineering, and we went for the conversion training at the Royal Naval Engineering College in Plymouth. I did the conversion course because I now became a weapons systems engineer, which meant you are in charge of the weapons maintenance.
Were you surprised that at some point when you became a more senior person that you are tapped to be military governor? Was it something that happened?
It's a non-regimental appointment, military governor. And they look at their best shots and recommend them to go, because they don't want you to go there and disgrace the military. It's not part of what we train, we learn. But, because managing people, yes, it's part of ours, but we are managing people who had been trained with certain behavioral pattern. If you fall out of that line, it's instant punishment for you. But you are now going to the larger society where you cannot control anybody anyhow. On any occasion, you expect people with behavior from 0 to infinity, and you have to manage them. That was another different experience for me, and I will got me into that. Let me just quickly say, and after I did a lot of training, I've been to the U.S. War College. I've done a lot of training on weapons and the systems in in Italy, in all over the world. I got to the peak of my career. I became the director of weapons systems at the naval headquarters. Apparently, there had been nominations for governorship. I didn't know. Now, my driver who took me to Port Harcourt now said that, sir, we had finished the operation. We were going back to various locations. And he woke me up in the morning and says, I heard on the radio your name, that they just appointed some governors. I said, look, you this guy, if you don't get out of my room, because he had already offended me, and it was around December time, that look, when we get back to Lagos, he was going to spend the Christmas in the cell. So I thought he was still out of his head. He said, no, sir, I had your 3 names announced on the radio. I said, get out of my room. So I turned on the radio because I was to go back to Lagos that day. And so the next hour news, you remember there was an FM radio in Port Harcourt in those days, very powerful. And they mentioned 3 of us being governor, this one appointed governor. Wow. By the time I got downstairs at that presidential hotel,
Port Harcourt,
the crowd, the workers, the people, my goodness, how the hell do I get to?
That's even before Lagos. So did it,
the news had gone all over the place.
This kind of thing, does it really get to somebody's head?
No, you
officer, here you are now.
You need the grace of the Almighty God. You must remain very humble in whatever position you find yourself. I preach that to people. I tell people my own experiences of life, the vicissitudes of life, the imponderables of life. If you allow it to get your head, you'll be down like a falling apple.
But you were a young man, so it's inevitable some of it will go to.
No. The upbringing is important. And I had never been to any part of Ondo State. I had never had any opportunity of even doing any. Yes, as a student, I was very active in the University on Student Union Politics. But that was within students. Now you are going. I remember my first day in Ondo State. When I got there, I looked around. All the obas are lined up. And for your little self, you think you know it all. Wisdom of the elders. So I sat back. I had read the books of Papa Awolowo. Now, in any democratic governance, there are 3 aspects of government, 3 tiers of government. You have the executive, you have the legislative, and then the judiciary. In a military administration, you only have the executive and unelected.
The judiciary.
And then the judiciary. The legislative arm that represents the various constituencies, the needs of the people, they are not there. Now, how do you manage? And here you are, everybody is looking at you for solution. I was 42 years old. Then I said to myself, let me use this design. I mean, you've been to war colleges, you've been to so many institutions. I said, what I'll do, how do you, if you don't know the feelings of the people, how do you rule them? How do you manage their resources for their benefit? That's the essence of political life, public office. So I said, okay. I called my secretary to government, brilliant man. selfless individual. I said, now, this is the problem we have. How are we going to solve it? I told him my own suggestion. He added his own. I said, look, every Mondays, I will meet all the permanent secretaries because they are the accounting officers. This is the budget. We compare your earning last week with what the budget says. Have you been able to hit that target, or you are still falling behind? They will explain their problems, So every Mondays, I met with the permanent secretaries. Every Tuesdays, I met with the full ministries. They tell you their problems, the projects that they are doing. If they are doing well, they let you know. If they are not doing well, they let you know.
Yeah, but you are aware that some of your political opponents have alluded to your tenure in Ondo as something that was not democratic. That
nobody. You know why? Nobody will tell you that. Of course, in big society, everybody cannot like you. There will be those who are undermining you, are saying, even if you did the best of your performance, what you have done is to say you have satisfied your creator and the people. If you think that they will praise you while you are there, watch your back.
So what led you into mainstream politics after you retired as a military governor?
I will tell you. All your team to hear from the people, to have the feedback. If your colleagues, your commissioners have been lying to you, that's when the people will face them and tell them. So you are in touch with the feelings of the people. What they lack, they will still tell you. The KBACs and all those people too will be at such meetings. Now, that was how we were able to manage the resources of our land.
But you never contested election to test your popularity?
No. Not in that. The only election I contested was to be the vice chairman of the whole zone, the Southwest zone. And nobody rejected me for the party. And they supported me all along.
Yeah.
All the campaign that I went, campaigning to them, they listened. And we won the election, both in Ekiti and Ondo.
Are you still in the PDP?
Very strongly. I'm an irredentist PDP man.
Why do you think you lost the election in 2023?
Traditionally in Africa, if you have a problem at home, you don't go to the marketplace to start settling that problem. But what I can tell for public is simple. We lost that tenacity, that commitment, that loyalty to the tenets that established the party by the founding fathers. The founding fathers sacrificed a lot for this country. Chibolege from the Southwest, his political leanings, sat in the same room with Alex Ekweme. They will never be political allies. Alex Ekweme with Jimbo Bodo, politically, how? Papa Solomon La with Alhaji Siroma, how? Or Rimi to sit with Siroma, or even Solomon La, Babangba Atiku, Professor Aminu, all those who will never see eye to eye came together and said, look, these military boys must never come back. Let's work together. What are those prevailing problems of this country? They were honest to themselves. We call them the G14. There were more.
Mm.
They then came out with certain criteria. They knew why did the First Republic fall amongst them.
So your point is the PDP in 2023
Did not follow
yes.
the dictates.
Okay. It didn't share the positions very well.
Yeah.
But do you think then if Atiku had settled his problem with the G5 governors, things would have been different?
Absolutely.
Mm.
I was in the center of it all.
Mm. Are you disappointed
Yes.
Bola Tinubu won this election?
I have my personal conviction that all didn't go well with what Professor Yakubu was saying. And I tell you why. You know, that's my own area of operation. Like I told you, I am a weapons systems engineer. Imagine you are at sea, you are at war, a missile is being fired at your ship. Your early warning radar picked it up, sent all the information to the computer. The computer is already working and all that. And then you now said there was a glitch, that the computer stopped working. You know what you have done? You kill everybody on board that ship. I said, what kind of computer is it running? Who designed that kind of system? We had it. No computer like it is for that kind of warfare that will not be robust enough. If one channel is blocked, there are other channels that it must work on the D-Day and the H hour. And he told us there was a glitch. Now the company itself has said they were watching. You people switched it off. Otherwise, you know, you are spoiling their own market for them. They said, no, it didn't stop. You switched it off. We need prayers.
Do you think the judiciary really is capable of overturning elections in Nigeria?
I am praying that maybe this will help this nation. Because, you know, everybody has been saying, we judiciary, did you see what they are doing? The whole world for the first time is watching us.
But did you say and mean that if Bola Ahmed Tinubu won the election, you will leave the country?
What I said
were you talking in parables?
Absolutely. I was talking in parables. Because I said, how? And I can go and live anywhere I want. Look, I put in this year, the 25th year in politics. 25 years in the military. 50 years of my life. I'm getting close to 80 now. What am I looking for? But to go and live where I can take a walk without looking back and forth of who is running after me. And then that I can live in peace until the Almighty God will call my flight.
Are you planning actively to do that at this stage of your life?
I don't know what those judges are going to say. Anything they say, we will need the grace of God to keep every Nigerian sane.
Do you see yourself reconciling with the Tinubu presidency if the legal challenge goes his way?
You know, the interesting thing is the Kabiyesi, our Kabiyesi, you know, is my friend. That's exactly his prayers this morning to me. That when all the legalities are done and they can perform, I don't need any more job from anybody. My brother, I have worked with 5 presidents in this country. 5 presidents. I have been inside the bedroom of the president of this country, holding meeting one-on-one with Baba. I retired.
Who Baba is this?
Baba Obasanjo, when he was president.
Yes.
Now, I had I worked with General Dia when he was Chief of General Staff.
PSO.
Yeah, in that same office now where the Vice President uses. That was where I retired as a military officer. There's no part of that villa from the Madam's office all the way to the other gate that I don't know. What am I looking for? Let the younger... I came out first at 42. If they come and say, Baba, what do you think about this idea, that idea? I can do. If they say I nominate people for, I say, no, I could not. Call my party. It is the party who should say, go and work here, not me. If it's a matter of, like we are discussing, what do you think about this? I came from a political home with Abba Macaulay. And that is concept, is what we are promoting. The unity of this country, the respect for human beings, the respect to manage the resources of the land for the benefit of the people.
Outside politics, how do you spend your days now?
Because the body, in those days, squash was my major. But in these days, spend a lot of time with my children, spend a lot of time. I do a lot of reading, here, listen to the news. And
you still look very robust to me.
You know, generals don't retire.
Yes.
We only fade away. And then the discussion about political, this problem here, problem there. The whole of my house, here yesterday, my office was jammed. That's why you couldn't come yesterday. We had the meetings of party stalwarts. It was full of people.
So you're still really an active politician.
They are telling me, sir, don't leave us midstream. You know, see us till the end. We must solve the problem of our party to reconcile people. Yeah, we can disagree, but we don't have to be disagreeable. We don't have to be like as if, you know, you must go down. We are warning them. PDP was a party that is the first national party from the swampy forest to the savannah regions in the north. Please don't let the dream of our founding fathers just die.
So outside politics, do you have any hobby? Do you do anything for pleasure, leisure?
You know, these days, they were not like the good old days. When you go anywhere now, you got to be careful. You know, you hear of stories, people being poisoned, people being shot, I don't see what is there in life that will take us to that, because we are not politically in the same camp. Even those who are in the same camp with you, didn't they send me to Kiri? Have you forgotten?
Yes.
Yeah. For doing what? For doing absolutely nothing, no crime.
I didn't raise it because the Supreme Court in the end said...
Yeah, but it's an experience for me, because I had been to the highest part of the land, to have stayed. I didn't sleep there, but I stayed in the bedroom of the president of this country. And I've been to the valley, which was the prison room, for doing nothing. And, you know, if not the grace of the Almighty, that I still trust Him, that I didn't do anything, how would He have ended up? They wanted to cocoon me and containerize me, that this fellow would not be. But I saw it as a special gift from God. You know, if God wants to use you, He takes you to a spiritual desert to learn and see the other side of life. And if you learn all that, you look at the imponderables of life, the vicissitudes of life. Okay, Mr. Big Man today, where is he tomorrow? There will be a day of exit. And in my own Christian upbringing, once you are 70, because God guarantees that you have 70. And if you are strong, He makes it 4 scores. That's 80 years. And so I tell all my friends, once you are 70, you are already at your departure lounge. You've gotten your boarding pass, but you don't know when He can call your flight. be careful. Do what is obvious, that you are faithful to the doctrines of the Almighty God. I'm not afraid of anything. What am I looking for? Am I still just going to buy a car or to go and build a house? I've gone through all those experiences and
what about family life?
Perfect. My first wife, that we started together from the university together. Like I told you, when we made to the Navy and we divorced, you know. And my wife now, it's of course much younger than I am, but was a perfect match to me. And I am contented, I'm satisfied. When you have a good woman with you, you will reflect. You know, somebody who is committed, who is loyal, who is dedicated. What else are you looking for? That at your old age, you are not running around and shaking, you cannot sleep, you cannot do this, you cannot.
So you're really not looking forward to this flight coming too quickly. the later the better.
For the Almighty to come and fly. What else do I want to do? I just told you all I have done from my youth to when I was growing up. Did I ever know that I will get out to public life? People will know me, and then I will have this opportunity. I have worked with 5 presidents in this country. It's an honor. I didn't design it, but looking back and reflecting. In fact, what I want to start doing is to mentor the younger generation. I set up some organization when you bring the young ones now, like we enjoyed when we were young. Let these young boys have tools. Let them be trained on something rather than running after the Agbero and be doing these motor packed out. So it's been a wonderful experience for me. And
thank you.
I enjoyed it. I've enjoyed my life.
Thank you, Chief
and I should thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Yes, and
it's just like my memoirs are being prepared.
Very good. Very good. We look forward to it. And wish you long life to continue what you are doing.
Thank you very much.
Continue being with your family.
Thank you.
And viewers, thank you for joining us in this Reminiscences episode with Chief Bode George here in Lagos. And until we meet you another time, goodbye.